Welcome back to another episode of the Huxley Morton podcast, the show where each week we speak to pharma company owners and industry leaders sharing their stories of personal and professional growth. We're also joined by the clinical trials guru, Mr. Dan Svera. Dan, welcome to the show. Well, look, Dan, I've kind of introduced you, the clinical trials guru. Many of our audience will be familiar with your name, your content. But look, give us a bit of an overview as to who you are, the companies that you're involved in, because I know that you've got your hands in so many organizations, it seems. So, yeah, give us a quick overview as to everything that you're involved in.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me. I mean, it's like a long time coming. Should have been on way earlier, but that's my fault. So I'm a site owner first, research site. That's like, if I had to pick only one thing, it's owning sites, owning clinics. Mm-hmm. One of the reasons I moved here to Arizona, Yuma, Arizona, it's an underserved area of the country that never had clinical research here. So created a site. I'm in the startup mode now for 2 studies, pre-SIV. But since 2005, I've been owning and operating sites. 2010 was when I started my YouTube channel. That started opening me up to other sites needing help with whatever questions they had. So we started a consulting service that helps sites get studies, negotiate budgets. That really is one of our biggest revenue streams to this day. And then in addition to that, started all the CRA training stuff, CRA Academy, CRC Academy. And then, a bunch of other like Latinos in clinical research. We started looking into biotech stocks to do some videos around that. But I would say the site owner and the CRA training is probably the biggest components of what I do.
Amazing. There's quite a few things to reel off there, Adam, isn't there?
Yeah, absolutely. And before we went onto this the show today, Dan, I was looking at the immense amount of content you've created on YouTube and on various different places, and it's really testament to the effort that you put in over the years by the sounds of it. So is it fair to say that you're a fairly early adopter to translating that information electronically in the digital age ahead of COVID and where we find ourselves today?
Oh yeah, as far as like video conferencing, I mean, one of the best things that happened to our CRA Academy was COVID, because prior to COVID, we had all the students come in interning in person. It's very inefficient. I mean, we had people from UK coming to LA, to come intern for a week and then go back. Now we do it all remotely. We have one of the things I forgot to mention, we have a very boutique CRO where we do investigator-initiated trials. So we actually have a breast cancer study we're working on. It's a very important breast cancer study, immuno-oncology. And we have it all remote now. Like all the monitoring is done remotely for that study because of COVID. So it forced us to rethink how we do the internship. And because of that, I think we're doing a better job at serving our students.
But it certainly seemed like you already had that in your armory, the fact that you were already doing online teaching. And as I say, I was looking back so much. You look like a younger man in some of the videos.
Yeah, I started in 2010.
There's a noticeable change, isn't there, over the years? You can see it.
You can see it. Yeah, 2010. I was 29, going on 30, and now I'm 40. So yeah, it's been a full decade.
Wow,
of doing this.
A decade dedicated to the research.
A decade, and it's not stopping.
Wow. It's terrific. As I say, I think you're doing an amazing job with all of that content.
Thank you.
It will presumably grow and grow, and the adoption becomes greater.
And then the users, there's new people every day. Like, I mean, I feel like I covered everything, but then I realized that there's new people every day that haven't seen anything. So, and they're not going to go in the archives. They're going to want to see what's new.
Most definitely. Well, Dan, I guess that we've given people an overview for those who have had their eyes closed over the past decade and not come across you either on LinkedIn or on YouTube or in the world of clinical research as to what you've been doing. But look, one of the things that I'm always fascinated about is how you came across clinical research before you got into it. So, kind of pre-2010, was it a planned gig? Did you fall into it? How did it come about for you?
Very accidental and also very lucky. So my dad is a psychiatrist. And he's a foreign doctor, so he's an international medical graduate from Romania. I was actually born in Romania. We moved to the States when I was 2. So I grew up in the States, but I'm technically a Romanian-born, foreign-born, naturalized U.S. citizen. So my dad, up until 10th grade for me, my dad was not a practicing physician. He was a physical therapist. He worked at Jenny Craig, getting people to lose weight, all kinds of stuff while he was studying for his foreign exams. And so by the time I was in 10th grade, he actually did it. Hats off to my dad. I don't know how he did it, but he did it. And then we moved to Orange County, which is a suburb of LA. And because of his colleagues at University of Southern California, they kind of started a research clinic for psychiatry. And I didn't really think much of it, but I was a pre-med. By the time I went to college or started thinking about going to college, I was, I had it in my mind, I'm going to be a doctor, I'm going to go to med school, I'm going to take the shortest path there. If my dad's doing research, and he didn't know anything about research, it's like him and 4 other doctors. One of them, I think, knew enough to do it, but not enough to manage it well. So I helped out. I had no clue really what it was, but I kind of did survey studies, and then they let me keep some of the revenues. So I was like, wow, this is like not bad revenue for, like a 18-year-old, 19-year-old. So then I went to college, didn't think about research anymore. But when I graduated, my GPA was not that good. So I was like, man, I'm not going to get into med school. I have to do something. I talked to my dad. He's like, you know what? You should do more research, get it on your resume. That's probably make you more attractive. Somebody's going to take you with your low GPA if you have research on your resume. So I went there as soon after I graduated college, and the business started falling apart. Employees just walked out one day. And I was like, what's happening? And my dad was like, I don't know. One of the doctors decided that he's quitting, and then 3 other ones left him or followed him. So now it's just me, and we don't know anything. He doesn't know anything about it. So he's like, either you go somewhere else and work, or you can take over the existing studies and see and I didn't know a thing about research. So I took over these existing studies. In the middle of the study, right? Patients, I didn't even know who the patients were. It's just, I hoped that they would show up in the waiting room. Every day, I just sat there and said, somebody's going to show up today. They're going to say they're in a study. There was zero organization, and it was zero, such chaotic stuff.
And were the people still turning up?
They were. They were
Adam, how crazy is that? Because we've spoken to people about patient engagement, patient
centricity,
all of
they
that.
They showed up.
Whereas you were just winging it, and people they were there.
It sounds like the blag. You were blagging it. We have this phrase called blagging it. Did you feel like you were blagging it for a while? By the sounds of it, you were.
Well, I don't know what that means, but sure, it sounds like
making it up as you go along.
Yes, absolutely.
What do I do? I just kind of fit the pieces together of the pie.
100%. My whole, and I still had the delusion that I would get into med school during this time. So my whole thesis was, I hope my monitor doesn't kill me and call the FDA. I literally knew nothing, guys. When I say nothing, I knew nothing. The patients were ongoing, so I could see the source for the next visit, but that's about it.
How did you deal with that? Because I think, I guess having been a manager, a leader, now a business owner, often when you have people in your team that don't necessarily know what they're doing, they kind of hide away and don't vocalize it. And normally things go on and then the shit hits the fan. So how did it keep going, and what was going through your head at the time?
It was very simple because everyone quit. So it was just me. There was nobody to rely on. It was my dad who was the PI, and he knew nothing. He was ready to just like call the sponsor and cancel all the studies. And we were going to early term all the patients. But then I was like, well, let's just see. Maybe I'll figure it out. And so it was easy. There was nobody to manage. It was just me having to learn everything. And I got to give a huge, huge shout out. Our monitor for that study, once she realized that I don't know anything, because at first she thought I was just like lazy, but then she really understood I don't know anything. So she started training me. She started showing up more often. She taught me like the fundamentals of research. And that was like the foundation for the videos, the first videos I started making 5 years later. And then I learned how to do studies within 6 to 12 months. I kind of knew how to handle the next study.
Sound of that.
Yeah.
But look, to move us on to the next question, Dan, clearly you've had to, since being a solo man who didn't know what he was doing, you've since had to do some hiring. What are the top 3 qualities that you perhaps look for when building your businesses, your teams?
Willingness to do whatever it takes. Almost the opposite of academia. So I don't want someone streamlined, somebody ready to follow orders. I don't need that. I need someone who can think for themselves, and with a little bit of training can make the right decisions most of the time, and then recognizing that it's ultimately my fault no matter what happens. So go-getters, people that try to figure out how, for anything you try to do, there's like 1,000 reasons why it won't work. And it does nobody any good to keep listing those things. But I need the people to say, well, this is how it could work. This is 1 or 2 ways or 3 ways how it could work. I don't need more people saying this is not going to work and here's why. I mean, we know that. If it's not going to work, just don't do anything.
But the fact is that there aren't that many who want to actually jump outside of that box, because the box is pretty well defined in our industry, isn't it? That's the only problem. So those go-getters, I think you've got to figure them out, haven't you? You've got to find them.
I talk to, on average, 2 people a day who want to start a clinic. Within the first 2 minutes, I have a feeling who's going to succeed and who's not in the first 2 minutes.
Yeah.
If they start talking about business plans and let's figure out our structure, should it be a LLC? Should it be a S Corp? You already lost. You don't even have a PI. And they're more concerned about a business plan. And I said, the business plan's irrelevant. Your PI is going to have to agree with whatever business plan. You're going to waste like 100 hours into this, and then your PI is going to say, no, that's not what I want to do. We're going to do it this way. So why don't you spend those 100 hours, go to find doctors, talk to like 5 doctors instead of worrying about a business plan. People who come from CRO, pharma space, and academia are so rigid in their thinking that they're doomed for failure. As a business owner, you cannot succeed that way. You need the opposite.
It's great that you make that point, because I couldn't agree with you more. And I come across those people a lot as well. And they're not the people that I spend a lot of time with, to be quite frank, for the same reason as you. Because I think we all attract like-minded people, and we're not looking for mirrors of oneself, but certainly you're very quickly polarized against those individuals that you're describing, aren't you?
But you know what? Those people I'm describing have a place in this industry, but it's not as business. It's not as business owners, it's as managers. So when my site gets big enough, gets boring, so I no longer want to. When I start getting bored, that's when those people need to come in. They don't need to think on their own. They could be more risk averse. So let's protect what we have.
Yeah.
Unless I come in and say, no, let's go. Let's start growing again. So when you want just your business to not fail, you bring those people in, but you don't bring them in when you want it to succeed.
Well, Dan, it's been a pleasure having you on the show. I know that you're very active on YouTube, but look, for our audience and anyone else that is looking to reach out to you, I know that you're often promoting your own channel. Look, give us a quick overview of your emails and where best to reach you.
Yeah, Dan at theclinicaltrialsguru.com. Anybody can text me, area code 949-415-6256. And then YouTube, Dan Sfera, Instagram, Dan Sfera. That's pretty much it. If you want to be on the email list, theclinicaltrialsguru.com.
Fantastic. Well, look, Dan, thanks again for sharing all of your insights. Pleasure having you on the Huxley Morton podcast.
Thank you guys for having me. Appreciate it.
Ben. Take care.
Good man.